Hi, I'm Christina Holtz and I'm a volunteer and steering committee member with the League of Women Voters of Hamilton-Wenham. The League is a nonpartisan political organization which encourages informed and active participation in government. For more than 60 years, the League of Women Voters of Hamilton-Wenham has been hosting a candidates night as part of our voter education program. Our goal is to provide a forum for candidates to introduce themselves and a few of their ideas to the community so that voters will be more informed at upcoming elections. We solicit questions from our membership and town residents. Tonight, we welcome the two candidates for Select Board in Wenham. There is one seat open and it's for a term of 3 years. The candidates running for Select Board in Wenham are Peter Clay and Deirdre Perotti. Also joining us tonight is my fellow League Steering Committee member, Tess Leary, and Tess will be our timekeeper for the evening. And now I'd like to introduce our moderator, Wenham resident Paul Mihailidis. Paul is a professor of civic media and journalism and assistant dean in the School of Communications at Emerson College in Boston, where he teaches media literacy, civic media, and community participation. He is founding program director of the Masters in Media Design, senior fellow of the Emerson Engagement Lab, and faculty chair and director of the Salzburg Academy on Media and Global Change. This is our 4th year that Paul has very generously volunteered his services as moderator, and we are very grateful. Paul?
Thanks, Christina. And thank you for that kind introduction as well. It's great to be with everyone again, and really appreciate the work of the Hamilton-Wenham League of Women Voters to organize these events, and to our candidates for taking their time to participate. As I think we all know, this service to the town is the kind of foundation for how our town functions in a positive and strong way. And I think as we get started tonight, I'd like to thank both of you for the time you've already put into volunteering with the town in different capacities, and all the time you've put in to get to this point tonight. So we really appreciate the effort, and we'll be ready to dive right into the session tonight. So the way it will work is we will ask for opening statements of 2 minutes in time, and Tess in that upper right corner you'll eventually see a timer clock up there, which should guide you along as you speak. We've chosen at random who will go first, and then we will be alternating order of speakers, and we have 4 questions tonight, and then we'll conclude with closing statements. And of course, we do wish we were able to be back in person tonight with live audience, but we will, as we kind of get back to that state of normalcy, we hope this will be a benefit to the town as we near April 7th and our local election. So okay, so let's dive right in. So first we'll start with opening statements for you to allow you to explain a little bit about yourself and why you're deciding to run for the Wenham Select Board. So Peter, you were selected first, so you'll have 2 minutes to deliver your opening statement. Over to you.
My wife, Julie, and I moved to Wenham in June of 1992 from Brookline. We have consistently attended town meetings, so we understand the complexity of budget overrides and the impact of high tax rates on residents, particularly our senior citizens, due to a lack of commercial tax base. Our 3 kids received excellent educations, attending Bucher, Miles River, and the regional high school, graduating between 2010 and 2014. We're still involved and aware of the wide range of issues for parents with school-age children facing, from navigating the effects of the pandemic to the high cost of athletic user fees. I had a successful 25-year career at Gillette, holding increasingly senior positions on the global shaving business, managing hundreds of millions of dollars in advertising and marketing spending. So I really, in fact, know my way around a P&L. I would also note that my Gillette team and I delivered quality results while working in a challenging matrix organization similar to how the town is organized. I will bring these strengths to the select board if elected. Since retiring from Gillette in 2011, I have co-founded a successful startup, taught sales and marketing at the Tufts Entrepreneurship Center, became an angel investor at Launchpad Ventures, and I even mentored and helped get funding for a group of 6 young women-founded companies. I was elected to the planning board 3 years ago, joined the Community Preservation Committee a year and a half ago, and I was recently appointed as vice chair. Through the service, I learned how important these groups of dedicated volunteers are in terms of shaping both preservation and growth in the town, especially now that the planning board is developing Wenham's first master plan in over 60 years. As a select board member, I will listen to my constituents, understand their viewpoints, and make fully informed decisions. Wenham has welcomed many young families over the last 5 to 10 years. I will reach out to hear their views on life in Wenham and encourage them to engage by attending town meeting and joining the various committees. Lastly, I'm running for the select board because I want to ensure that Wenham remains a great place to raise a family like the Clay family experienced. I ask you to please vote for me.
Thanks, Peter. Much appreciated. Deirdre, your 2 minutes starts now.
Great, thank you very much. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting us this evening. I'm very excited to be here and to participate. I have lived in Wenham for about 10 years now with my husband, my 2 daughters who are middle school aged, and my mother also lives with us. We've become very engaged in the community and have enjoyed it tremendously. We're active members at First Church in Wenham. I have just joined the Garden Club, which I'm very excited about. My kids have been active at the community house in the theater program, which they dearly love. I grew up in Topsfield, so I'm through and through a North Shore girl, and I love it here and I love this area. I've had a 25-year career in higher education in leadership and management positions. Specifically, I've done operations research and sort of covered all the bases in terms of finance and budget, human resource management, strategic planning, and grants management, in addition to many other facets of operational management. I'm accustomed to complex problem solving. I worked in the public health, global health field, and we had an operation that on average spanned about 14 different countries. And we always had to take a creative approach to problem solving, thinking outside the box, but within the confines of rules and regulations of multiple countries. I'm very interested in joining the select board, particularly because of increasing and strengthening the foundation of town government through efficient and effective policies and procedures. I'm interested in increasing transparency and communication with our residents to encourage people to engage and to really understand what is happening in town government. And of course, what is top of mind for most residents in addressing the tax burden, looking at responsible development, particularly through hopefully a very robust master plan process.
Thanks, Deirdre. Much appreciated, and well done. We stuck close to time on the opening statements, so that's a success right away. Let's dive into questions. There are 4 questions that we're going to ask, and once again, you'll have 2 minutes each to answer your question. We'll rotate the order, and the questions will cover a range of issues and perspectives on kind of where we are with Wenham now and some of the issues we're facing and some of the opportunities as well. So the first question, Deirdre, we're going to start with you right away again. And that question is, how have you prepared to be a member of the Wenham Select Board?
Sure, thank you. So I would say first and foremost, I've been spending time really trying to connect with residents as much as possible. And I have to say I've really enjoyed this campaign process for that reason. And I've had the wonderful opportunity to have been invited into people's homes, into neighborhoods. I've had driveway conversations. I have been out and about at campaign events, but also just at community events, going to the Garden Club and working at the Bucher Bake Sale to benefit the 5th grade class that my daughter's in. And just really being with people again, which is in and of itself has been quite a joy. But hearing people's concerns, their interests, what they're thinking about has been such a tremendous experience. I would also say, though I didn't know it at the time, but having been on the Town Government Study Committee the last year, I've learned, which is also what led me to want to run for select board. I've learned a tremendous amount about town government, the structure. I did a lot of research and analysis on the data that we collected and contributing to the report. And I've learned just so much about municipal government. I've done some of my own reading and exploration, particularly on municipal finance, which is a little bit different than some other types of finance and budget. And I actually feel like I've been preparing my entire career to do this. I feel like it has aligned really well, the things that I've done, the experiences that I've had, and my toolkit with what is expected of a select board member. And so I've become just really, really excited about the possibility of joining.
Thanks, Deirdre. Much appreciated. Peter, the question is over to you. And that's, how have you prepared to be a member of the Wenham Select Board?
Well, I started watching the select board meetings once I decided to run. I read through the town bylaws. And like Deirdre, I started talking to a lot of people around town to hear what their concerns are. What I heard were concerns about the town budget. Is it going up and our taxes going to increase again? Concerns about the school system. Is the quality of teaching as good as it used to be? How do we repair and upgrade the school facilities without requiring an override? I truly believe that there's much more consensus on concerns than people might think. My 3 years on the planning board has helped me immensely, having to deal with highly technical issues. Lastly, the select board is a deliberative body. It makes decisions. And my 25 years as a senior executive at Gillette taught me how to listen to all sides of an issue and collaboratively arrive at a decision. I also learned that not making or unnecessarily delaying decisions can paralyze and be corrosive to an organization. That's really not my style.
Thanks, Peter. Much appreciated. Let's head to our second question. And that question, Peter, we'll start with you again. This question is about the culture of our town and working in local town government. And the question reads, how will you work to build a positive culture with new and existing town employees and within town government?
Well, so when I was at Gillette, we always used to have new people coming into the marketing, and I always sat down with them the first day, spent maybe 2-3 hours with them. And what I would always say is, listen, you get like 3 months to ask all the stupid questions you can ask. So do it, because if you're still asking stupid questions after 6 months, we're going to be a little worried about you. And it's done in a very nice, positive way. But that makes a difference. In terms of culture, if you went back to the people that worked for me at Gillette, and actually one still works for us in my startup, I like to have an environment that's fun, where people can relax. And when they're in that relaxed, somewhat fun environment, that's when you get the best out of them. And that's when people collaborate the best. That's when people are most creative. And I think, that's what we really need to have happen across the town, not just the employees, but I think our residents as well.
Great, wonderful. Thanks. And yeah, I agree that culture is important. So Deirdre, we'll head, the question will come to you now, and you'll have 2 minutes. So how would you work to build a positive culture with new and existing town employees and within our town government?
Thank you. I think that's a great question. And I would say I've had a lot of experience in doing that because as I said, managed a lot of the human resources in my career, did a lot of hiring, recruiting, and onboarding, and really, and also teaching, advising, and mentoring students was part of my role as well. So really creating a collaborative culture has to happen by design. You need to create opportunities for people to come together, to be at the table together, to work together, but also to laugh together and get to know each other as people. And that's, I think, where I start, which is trying to build relationships on an individual level. And then from there, try to build that out at the group level as well. And that's around community events and also in meetings and creating spaces where people feel that they have a voice and where they can be heard. I think that that's tremendously important. With students, we were able to create a really welcoming environment in the classroom where people felt safe to be heard and engage. And I think, you know, bringing your authentic self to your work life and in these situations is what encourages people to feel comfortable, that they can engage, that they can trust you, and it helps to set the tone. And we also did that, like I said, by deliberately creating structures that enhance that. So maybe there's a community lunch once a month or something where people meet outside to have lunch and just talk and understand who each other are and where you're coming from. That's how relationships get built. That's how connections get built. I've also spent a bunch of time watching meetings. And so I feel like I'm starting to know people already just from watching the interactions on boards and committees and people in town hall. So I already feel like I've started to know people. Thank you.
Thanks, Deirdre. Much appreciated. The next question, our third question for the candidates. This has to do with a few issues that are currently on the table in the town, and Deirdre, will go back over to you to start. And this question reads, do you think the committed CPA and affordable housing funds for a future project on Maple Street should continue to be held or released for other projects?
Thank you. So in the interest of just full disclosure, I will say that I do live roughly across the street from where this project is planned. But I'm going to answer the question from the vantage point of a potential select board member. It's I believe, a complex question, and from what I can tell from talking to people and looking at the information that is available through the town website and so forth, it's quite a complicated project with a complicated history. And if this were actually the select board meeting where we were deliberating on this question, I would actually have wanted more time, more connection, more discussion, and more information at my disposal. But from what I've learned so far, what I would say is that I would not at this time be in favor of releasing the funds for other projects. And that is because the project has been really, it seems, thoroughly vetted and approved by multiple committees. It's been through Zoning Board of Appeals, CPC, Affordable Housing Trust, Conservation Committee, and I think most importantly, it was voted in the 2019 annual town meeting to appropriate these funds. So I would not want to undo the work that has gone into this project, which is fairly significant, particularly without circling back for discussion and input with all of those who are involved, and particularly the town. That said, I do think the funds should not be held indefinitely, and I don't think that you can continually extend deadlines and extend deadlines. I do believe the grant agreements, the contracts mean something, that the terms and conditions should be closely monitored and adhered to. And if time continues to pass, then we do need to circle back and revisit the issue, again, by drawing in the people who are involved in the decision, and particularly the town, to determine whether the funds should be redirected for other projects. Thank you.
Thanks, Deirdre. Peter, the question is to you. Do you think the committed CPA and affordable housing funds for a future project on Maple Street should continue to be held or released for other projects?
Well, Maple Woods is an important 40B affordable housing project for Wenham in that it gets Wenham over the 10% state requirement.
Mm-hmm.
The project is for folks over the age of 62, so it'll have no impact on our schools. By being over 10%, the town can look at future affordable housing projects that are more in line with the aesthetics of Wenham. The funds have been committed from the CPC and from the Affordable Housing Trust. I am surprised at this question. From what I understand, the town has a contract with Harbor Light to release these funds once their conditions are met. Harbor Light has received their amended comprehensive permit and they pulled the building permit. The rest of the conditions are still being worked on by Harbor Light, and I've been assured that they are planning to keep up their part of the contract. The state is doing its final review, and there is strong likelihood that the funding is imminent. COVID evidently delayed their response. Maple Woods is in a corner of our town on the Danvers town line, not smack in the middle of town, which is good for the vast majority of town residents. I know that folks who live on Maple Street aren't happy with this, but this is a good thing for the town. Lastly, the town has also spent significant dollars on legal fees, staff, and board time on Maple Woods. Frankly, I'm not sure why we're still talking about this, because this is essentially a done deal.
Thanks, Peter. Thank you both for that answer. We'll head to our last question before closing statements. And Peter, we're going to start with you. And this last one kind of goes to your disposition again on working with the town. So we'd like you to please provide an example of a time when you were able to work with others who held differing opinions.
Oh my God, you're kidding, right? So I'd go back to my Gillette days. And we had a global trade-up strategy that there were parts of the world like South America and China that really disagreed with our strategy. And I was able to figure out that if I could get the Argentinians on board, because their team was so well respected across the continent, that I would probably succeed. So I spent a lot of time in Buenos Aires and other places working with them to test our strategy, get it to happen over a year. And the results were good enough that they got themselves fully behind the strategy and started executing. And then also telling their friends north from Brazil to Venezuela that this is really a good idea. And it worked. So it's just a lot of time, a lot of patience, figuring out who the right people were to test with and convince, and then use their influence over the rest of South America to make it happen.
Thanks, Peter. Much appreciated. That is a way to think about across differences in a real global way for sure. Appreciate the insight. Deirdre, the question is over to you. Please provide an example of a time when you were able to work with others who held differing opinions.
Sure, thank you. I think I've had to do that a lot in my career, working across 14 different countries. There were consistently different, disagreements on how and why and what should be done. So I would say it was a regular part of my career. But I can talk about one specific happening, I guess, earlier in my career, where my group actually transitioned from one large university to another. And so we were in the position of having to move employment contracts, grant contracts, the physical plant of our offices and resources and so forth. And it was a very complex move, moving faculty and staff and all of our work, the research that was being done. And it was challenging because we were working with the lawyers and sponsored research and the higher ups of two different universities who did not see eye to eye. There was a lot of anxiety among the group that we were moving about what was going to happen to jobs and so forth and so on. And so it was really complicated to unpack and and of course I was sort of in the middle because I was representing our group, working with the university we were leaving and the one that we were going to, and finding myself in the position of saying, it's going to be fine. I understand the grants, I understand the contracts, we just need to adapt to new systems. And really taking things one step at a time, trying to negotiate clearly and calmly. And in the end, we were successful and the move went smoothly and both sides were pleased with how it went. And we were able to get on with our work at the new university and grow from there. And for me, it was a tremendous experience, I have to say.
Thanks, Deirdre. We are now ready. This is wonderful. Thank you for being so clear and concise in your questioning. That's a hard skill to do, especially on Zoom, and so we appreciate that. We're now to closing statements. We'll have 2 minutes each for closing statements, and then we will offer some of our own closing thoughts, and we'll conclude the session. So here we'd just like you to kind of, if you have any way for voters to contact you, please share that. And I know you're both available and online and through various other channels, which is wonderful. And we'd love you to give each of you 2 minutes. We'll start with Deirdre to advocate for why our town should elect you for this position. So Deirdre, we'll start with you.
Great, thank you. And once again, thank you to the League of Women Voters, and thank you, Paul, for facilitating for us. And Peter, it's been a pleasure to participate in this with you. I would say I would appreciate people's votes because as I've said earlier, I think that really my whole background, my education, my work experience, the toolkit that I've built, my temperament, which is often described as calm, objective, with a real ability to connect with people, hear all sides and assimilate information, and be able to come out with output that I think people, and create buy-in that people can connect to. I think all of these things align very well with the responsibilities of being a select board member. And I think my skills particularly align right now with what is happening in Wenham, with, I think, helping to engage people in the master plan process, which I feel very strongly about as charting our future course in Wenham, about strengthening our policies and procedures, the foundation of our town government, human resource issues, which is, I think, something I bring to the table that isn't well represented in Wenham right now. And I think, I'm really enthusiastic about doing this. I've really come to enjoy municipal government. I've really enjoyed being part of the committees and part of the process. I worked on some policies recently, including the sexual harassment policy for the town. I actually really enjoy it. And I really would like to make a difference. I believe in the power of local government in creating public good for all residents, to preserve and also improve the life that we all enjoy here in Wenham. I'm looking to build collective resilience to prepare us to meet the complex challenges of the present and the future in a collaborative and engaging way. So I would appreciate your vote. Oh yes, and I do have a Facebook campaign page, and I have an email that I can be reached at deirdreforwenham@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thanks, Deirdre. Peter, over to you for your closing statements.
All righty. By electing me, you will get a select board member who will aggressively pursue appropriate commercial development as my #1 priority. A little commercial development can solve a lot of our financial issues, and hopefully in the future, I'm going to pay for saying this, do the unthinkable, allow us to lower our tax rates, which are the highest in the state. The select board should manage the town budget to deliver a high level of services at a reasonable cost. If elected, I will remain on the planning board so I can fully participate in the master plan development process, for which I have a lot of passion. Regarding our school system, I believe it should stay focused on quality teaching, graduating good critical thinkers, and repairing and upgrading the facilities. Again, the select board's influence over the schools is negotiating the annual contracts. I'm a big believer in preserving our open space. However, if we ever have a mini New England biolabs opportunity, we may have to sacrifice some open space to meaningfully increase our commercial tax base. Regarding affordable senior housing, as you know, I'm fully supportive of the Maple Woods project. In terms of protecting our water resources, I talked to a water board member who thinks our wells are okay. Longer term, I believe we need to engage with the Ipswich River Watershed Association to eliminate the constant water bans, and I've already been on a number of their calls. I'll say this, even though I'm 64 years old, and I just grabbed this. Even though I'm 64 years old, I've kept both intellectually and spiritually young, mentoring young entrepreneurs. I admire their creativity and their apparent lack of awareness that what they are doing is hard. I have a Facebook page as well. I'm also, I have a town account on the planning board. And so I just summarize by saying, you know, I'm running for the select board because I want to ensure that Wenham remains a great place to raise a family like my family experienced. Please vote for me, and thank you, League of Women's Voters.
Thanks, Peter, and thanks, Deirdre. And that concludes the questioning and closing statements portion of this evening. Once again, on behalf of the League of Women Voters, I want to thank you both for spending the time to be with us. A lot of information online is really great, but I am a firm believer in being able to hear your voices and how you approach the issues. And it's challenging to do that within the time limits we have. So I appreciate you both being so succinct and clear with your answers. As a father of 3 young children in town too, I realize how important this type of work is, and I do admire both of where you are and your wish to preserve what's made this a town that we all want to move to and continue to. So thank you both. And Christina, I'll turn it back over to you to close things out.
Thank you, Paul. The League would like to extend thanks to the candidates for participating this evening, and special thanks to our moderator, Paul, and to our timekeeper, Tess. We know that our time here was limited, and we encourage voters who have follow-up questions to contact the candidates directly. And please consider joining us, the League of Women Voters of Hamilton-Wenham, and working with other local volunteers so that we can continue to provide this type of voter education. You can visit us at LWVHW.org to learn more. And lastly, I'd like to say, don't forget, annual town meeting this coming Saturday, April 2nd, which will start at 1 in Wenham and be held at the Bucher School. And remember to vote in the general election on April 7th. Thank you for watching.